Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Next Level Play Therapy. And I am super excited this week. We are going to be talking all things Jungian Psychoanalytic Play Therapy with Jared Andes. He is a licensed clinical social worker and a registered play therapy supervisor. One of the reasons that I thought this would be an awesome topic is because, like Jared and I were talking a little bit before I hit the go live button, which is a lot like nowadays, it seems like there's only a couple of options for trainings. If you're a play therapist and you're wanting to learn play therapy and learn a theoretical model, there's usually only a couple of trainings available these days, which is good. They're good trainings. And if you don't really resonate with them, it doesn't seem like there's another option available. And so today we're going to talk about Jungian psychoanalytic play therapy. And then we'll talk a little bit at the end because the Utah Association for Play Therapy has a training coming up on Jungian psychoanalytic play therapy. That's just a mouthful to say. Jungian psychoanalytic therapy. All righty. So we're going to talk about what Jungian psychoanalytic play therapy is, what are the core components of Jungian psychoanalytic therapy, and just all things Jungian play therapy. So Jared is a play therapist, a supervisor, a trainer, and he also specializes in Jungian psychoanalytic play therapy, selective mutism. I've seen some of your trainings that you're doing other places about selective mutism as well, trauma and neurodivergence. He's currently serving as the vice president for the Utah Association for Play Therapy branch and is the clinical director for the APT Play Therapy magazine. So welcome, Jared. I don't know if you want to tell people a little bit more about what you're up to these days and what you're doing, and then we can talk about what's going on. Oh, before you do that, sorry, I forgot. I always forget this part. For those of you watching live, if you have questions about the topic, please feel free to post those in the comments. If you're watching the replay, please feel free to post in the comments and ask your questions. I'm sure we can make sure that Jared responds to those, or I can get an answer for you. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I'm also going to give you some ways to connect with Jared if you have questions, or the Association for Play Therapy, Utah Association for Play Therapy. You can reach out to them or message me. But feel free to join the conversation. And if you know somebody that might be interested in this topic, please feel free to share the information across your social media platforms and let your friends and colleagues know about the training coming up. All righty, there. I got my pitch in.
Well, thanks for the pitch.
You're welcome.
So a little bit more about me. I'm going to start with this. I'm the father of two. I've got two kids. Last time I joined you on your live stream, we were getting ready for my younger son's graduation. So that was an exciting day for us. And outside of that, I have a private practice. I have an office in Salt Lake and one in Sandy. I am really excited about sharing things like selective mutism and Jungian Analytical Play Therapy because the Jungian Play Therapy community is pretty small. We're not like the the Adlerians or Child Centered. It's a pretty small community. So I'm excited to bring that out to people and to help that community grow. I love when I run into people and they're like, oh, I've been doing this for a while, but I haven't really met anyone else who's doing this. It's
that's exciting.
Yeah. And then, the magazine keeps us pretty busy. A lot of great articles coming in. And anyone who's listening, if you have an idea, I definitely encourage you to, submit your manuscript. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help you.
Awesome. All right. So a little bit of full disclosure. My husband just went off to work, which means he opened the door to my office to let my dog in. So if you hear, she's leaving now. Sometimes she rolls around in the back and moans. So if you hear any weird noises in the back, I promise I'm not doing anything untoward back there. It's just my dog, Luna, because she doesn't like to be in the house by herself. So she comes and hang out with me during my live streams.
All right.
And sometimes you can see her little tail walking back and forth in the background if you're watching the video. I was watching one of my videos one time. This is a couple years ago. And I could see her. Oh, she's back. I could see her little tail, little black and white tail in the background. Yep. She's over there laying down. So if you hear weird noises, it's Luna.
Now we know.
Yeah. So, Jared, tell us a little bit about what is Jungian Play Therapy.
So I'm going to try not to do a really long history lesson, but we do have to go back a little bit to Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a collaborator with Freud, but they separated on some key ideas and issues. And Jung started his own psychology school. And Jungian Play Therapy descended from his theory, and it was modified for play therapy by John Allen, and then continued by people like J.P. Lilly, who was my first play therapy supervisor, and then Eric Green, both of whom unfortunately passed away, and continues to be something that evolves and grows. But like I said, it is a small community right now.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting. I think John Allen, isn't he in Canada?
He is.
I remember, this must have been a bazillion years ago. I don't remember if it was a national APT conference or a Virginia Association for Play Therapy conference, but he came and did a training, and he talked about his serial drawing. Mm-hmm. He has a book, Inscapes of the Children, about that model that he developed. And I still use that one to this day. So yeah, it's a really good book. It's an oldie. I don't even know if it's in print anymore.
Actually, they just released a new edition. So 2025, I think, is when that one came out. So, it's back in publication.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I use it all the time. Yeah. So that's
Inscapes of the Child's World is the name of that one. It is a great book.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. And okay. So this is my little nerdy part. Warning. I feel like I should warn people. Warning, you have entered the nerdy zone. When I think of Jungian psychoanalytic theory and expressive art, does the work that Dora Koff did with sand play over into some of the Jungian psychoanalytic play therapy theories?
Just happen to have her book right here. Actually, I'm not even kidding. It's cool. Just right there. But they kind of descended in two different
tracks,
lineages. Yeah, tracks.
Yeah.
But they do have a lot of bleed over, right? Like Jungian play therapy, Jungian analytical play therapy uses sand tray all of the time, right? That's a very common thing. And they both are descending from Carl Jung's ideas. So things like all of us are wired for individuation, which is becoming our whole self. We're wired for wholeness. And so we can trust the individual psyche, in this case, the child's psyche, to help direct therapy where it needs to go. Things like understanding archetypes and the energy that is transmitted in a session. Things like transference and countertransference and how important that is. It's not just you're a bad therapist. You have these countertransference feelings. It's actually information. It's data for the therapist. All of those things come from that same source. So yeah, there's a lot of bleed over between the two.
Yeah. And I like I mentioned to you previously, I went, this is probably 9 years ago when JP Lilly did the Jungian Play Therapy training for the Utah Association for Play Therapy. And there seemed to be that I found some similarities with child-centered play therapy, but I find that this part, what I'm about to say, is kind of similar across all the play therapy models in that idea. But I think in what I noticed in Jungian play therapy is that like sometimes the child leads and sometimes the therapist leads.
So
that idea of that,
ton of similarities. JP would always say that, the people who really, so I'll introduce a new topic that I was going to talk about later, but I'll introduce this now. There's this concept in Jungian analytical play therapy called temenos. And temenos means like the sacred district. It's the area, literally, it was the area around the temple that set it apart from the secular. And Jung said that the therapy space needed to be set apart and sacred. And in Jungian analytical play therapy, we recognize it's not just the playroom that needs to be separate and sacred. It's also the relationship that holds that temenos. So we are, as the play therapist, we are as much a part of that as the space that we're in. And JP would always say that, who gets temenos best out of anybody? The child-centered people. They really get it right. So yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, and then there are some big divergences. For example, if a child asks a question, I feel very free to answer the question.
You can answer the question.
Right. It does depend. Like sometimes I'll reflect it back to the child, say, oh, you're wondering this thing. Or, I might even use the very famous child centered line, like, oh yeah, it sure seems like that to you. Something like that. But if the relationship calls for it, I'll say, yeah, I'm afraid of that thing. Or that is a really cool thing that you built. I do like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that idea, I think that idea of the relationship and how important that is to kind of anchor and set play therapy apart from other play therapy models it's really important. And I'm curious from a Jungian standpoint, a Jungian play therapy standpoint, like how does the play therapist, what is, I guess, their way of being, so to speak, for lack of a better way of saying it, in the playroom? Because I feel like a lot of, I'll tell people, you need to learn a play therapy model. Like you have to be grounded in something. Learn how to apply it through every stage. Like learn how to do it. You can always add later.
Yeah.
But you need to at least learn a play therapy model because that's your framework. But the bottom line is, while you're learning the model, lean into relationship, because if you don't have relationship, then you're not going to get anywhere anyway. So
I don't know any model of play therapy that says we can deprioritize the relationship and focus on the technique. I don't know any type that does that, and certainly not Jungian analytical play therapy.
Yeah.
Very, very much focus on the relationship. I'm gonna bring in a couple of people to talk about what you just asked. So okay. I'll start with John Allen. He's got this great quote that I think about frequently. He said, Carl Jung viewed therapy as an existential exchange. And then John Allen went on to say, if the therapy is any good, both parties are changed. So the therapist experiences a change, and so does the client. It's not a one-way change, right? That both people are going to be changed by this. That's why countertransference and transference is so important, because we are going to experience something.
I love that.
I think it's a beautiful quote.
So true, right? Because if you bring your authentic self therapeutically, right, in a professional way, but if you bring your therapeutic self into and you enter into authentic relationship, then of course it's gonna impact you. Yeah. That's
I think many therapists would say,
I'm going to be pondering that the rest of the day.
I think many therapists, especially people who have practiced, for a certain length of time, would say they carry clients with them.
Yes. I mean, I have some clients. I've been doing this. I'm round in the corner, close to 35 years. There are still some clients that I think about. There's like a handful of them I think about to this day. Somehow they found me on social media like years later, and they'll just like my posts, which I think is very sweet because I know what a dark place they were in at the time and what a kind of a privilege it was to walk with them through that process. So it's very cool. You can see my dog Luna's head popping up. If you're watching on the video. Yeah. I love that so much. And, I think about what you said. I tell people too, countertransference, don't be afraid of it because it isn't a bad thing.
Right.
It just gives information. I remember this is when I was like first getting started back a gazillion years ago. And I was asking my supervisor at the time, what do I do when like what do I do with my countertransfer? Like super nervous. We're all out of grad school. We've been told
I'm not supposed to have this bad thing.
Bias, watch your bias. Basically, don't be a butthead with your bias. And so we're like super nervous about everything and wanting to do a good job and do right by our clients. And I was so nervous about countertransference. And I remember my supervisor said, well, just use it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, let's say you feel like there's anger coming and you feel yourself getting irritated because this was a adult client I was getting irritated with in a session and trying to manage that internally. And she said, well, if that comes up, just ask them. Do you ever feel like there are times when people get mad at you or irritated with you and you don't understand why? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I was sold from then on that countertransference is the magic secret sauce to figuring things out. Yeah. From a psychoanalytic, a Jungian analytic play therapy standpoint, how do you guys use that as a play therapist?
So I hope that this is true of all types of play therapy, but it is certainly true in Jungian Analytical Play Therapy. The Jungian play therapist is always in consultation, always working on their own interiority. The interior of the therapist is so important, right? So we have to do that work to get to know where is my stuff coming up and where is this coming from the client? I have a bad day, I'm tired and whatever, I can get irritated really easily. So if it's just me being irritated, like, in your example, and it's not something that this client is doing, then I need to, realize like, hey, this is what's happening for me. I need to work on that. But if I can go through that process and say, actually, I have like my level of irritation is pretty low, something else is happening in this room, then I sit with that. So the analytic stance is something that's really important. We'll talk about that more. For anyone who's interested, we'll talk about that in the 6-hour training here in Utah. But I'll say one thing that's, I think, really important on this, and that is to have a soft hypothesis. So anytime we're approaching it, we don't say, aha, it's this, I've got the answer, it's the one answer. We hold the hypothesis very carefully, really lightly, because it might be right and it might not be right. We sometimes actually will even present that in play therapy, like, oh, okay, so, that guy looks really angry, or wow, she is so powerful. A soft hypothesis stated like that. Mm-hmm. And the client will sometimes say, no, he's not scary. He's actually scared. And then oh, okay, thanks for telling me. And then you sit with that, you hold it. So the analytical stance is to hold these soft hypotheses and just hold them. And if you're in the play therapy session, you're doing Jungian Analytical Play Therapy, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to do, I agree with you fully. You go back to the relationship. And then also JP identified 3 key roles for a play therapist. So the first one is witness. That one, I think we can do pretty easily. I can sit here, I can witness this with you, and I can even reflect back to you that I'm witnessing it. I think that's really important. And then the next one is interpreter. So when we interpret, it does sometimes happen in the room, but we don't always offer it in the room. And usually it happens once we've left the play therapy room, as we're reflecting on the session, writing our note, thinking about the child. That's when we're really starting to work on the interpretation. Okay, so it might be this thing, it might be that thing, but it does sometimes happen within the playroom as well. And then the last one is container, which is crucial. You can't have temenos, like I was talking about earlier, without container. So there must be containment of strong emotions. There must be boundaries around the behavior. Otherwise, no one can feel safe.
I love that. You know, it's so interesting when you were talking about that. I was kind of thinking about the parallel, because I know you said you work with trauma as well, and how important these are to create a sense of safety for clients who have experienced trauma, but selective mutism as well. They're not going to do anything until they feel safe. They'll just stay frozen in the playroom until that happens. And so that whole idea of witness and feeling seen, heard, held, and understood, also within structure and containment, because that's where the safety is, with those boundaries. And I always think of the circle of security from an attachment standpoint. Parents have to be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind. I think in the playroom that their play therapist needs to be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you talk about in terms of the three roles of the play therapist.
Yep. And I'm going to, bringing in what you just said, so systems was part of Jung's model from nearly the beginning. He would look at, where is this person coming from? Not just who is this person showing up. And so looking at the family, like you just mentioned, helping the parents know, hey, like, this is what the child's doing in therapy. Here is how I can help support them. Here's how we can coordinate these things together. I think it's a huge part of play therapy.
Do you guys, from a Jungian Analytic Play Therapy, does the parent ever come into the playroom, or is it only individual?
So two things I would say it depends on. One, the therapist. I know some therapists who would almost never have a parent in the play therapy room. JP very, very rarely had parents in his play therapy room. Mm-hmm. I work with kids with selective mutism, and not bringing the parent into the play therapy room does not work very well. And so they usually start off in the room with me, and then we work on having them, work themselves back out of the room as we go on. So it would depend on the therapist, and then also depends on the parent and the child, and what they're looking for.
Oh, interesting. Okay. If you had the parent in the room, how do you set them up to join the room, or do you just bring? I'm a firm believer, because I have people tell me this all the time, especially in Play Therapy Academy, where we do a lot of skill building. They'll say they'll bring the parent in the room, and then it doesn't go very well. And then I'll say, well, did you talk to them about, like, why did you bring them in? And they're like, oh, because, the client asked. And I'm like, well, you can say no. Because it's not going to go very well. So I'm curious, from a Jungian analytic play therapy, if you are going to bring the parent in, is there a way that you kind of prepare them for it?
So I think we prepare them for it before they even show up to the office for the very first time, with those conversations we have where, hey, play therapy looks a little bit different from therapy you may have experienced or seen on TV, depending on what the parents' experience with therapy is. Your child's probably going to really want to come here, and they're going to come out of the room and they'll be like, that was so fun. And you're maybe even going to wonder, what was happening in that room? Was that therapy? What's going on in there? And so I have those conversations before the child ever shows up. And
I love that.
Then, as we continue on, when I'm thinking about bringing the parent in, or when it's time to bring the parent in, I have conversations about, here's my role in the play therapy room as the therapist. Here's what you're going to see from me. And you're going to hear me saying things that are going to sound maybe just a little bit different from what you're expecting a therapist to say, because the playroom is a different place. Here is what I'm hoping from you, from your role in the room as a play therapist, as a parent. what would you like your role to be, and kind of collaborate on that. And then I let them know, hey, your child is probably having some expectations from you as well. So what do you think those might be? So kind of an exchange of what are the expectations, what are the roles, and then just know it's going to look different. It's not going to be what you think therapy looks like unless you're really well versed in therapy.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a great way to explain it also, I think. So if you're doing, I know people like to kind of get an idea from a play therapy standpoint, what might Jungian Analytic Play Therapy session look like? So are there times when you sometimes lead and do a certain activity, or are you just kind of following and leading in the session? Do you ever do like a directive activity? How does that work?
So I would actually, again, refer people back to Inscapes of the Child's World by John Allen, because he's got some great information on this as well. The level of directiveness or non-directiveness will depend on the therapist and their viewpoint. For me, it has a lot to do with the client's age and developmental level. I work a lot with neurodivergent people, and that is, that's a whole different thing. So it depends a lot on the specific person that I'm in the room with, and I trust the relationship a lot. And sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what? I think this directive activity might be really helpful for this person, and I offer it, and it gets shut down really quickly. Or we try it and the person's like, well, that was lame. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. But sometimes when I offer it, the person's like, okay, let's try it. And then it becomes a very, very important aspect, an important intervention. And they remember that as they continue therapy. I like to say this, by the way, in my very first time training on Jungian Analytical Play Therapy, I said, that Jungian Analytical Play Therapy is a way of being and seeing, not a way of doing, which I think is true. And I also realized afterwards that it's kind of like putting people in a pool and saying swimming is a way of being with the water. So just be with it. But people who are learning need to know how to do some do's while they're learning how to be with and see. I think that's a really important thing to talk about. You talked about one already, serial drawing with John Allen. So for people who don't know that one, first off, it's chapter 2 of that book. It's a great chapter. So the idea of that one is we sometimes look at a drawing from a child and think, okay, this is what this drawing means. We derive meaning. We kind of even direct therapy off of that one drawing. And it's kind of like looking at one snapshot from a child's life and saying, aha, I think I understand what's going on here. When I worked in the hospital, we really focused on trends, right? Where is the blood pressure going? Is it going up, down, staying the same? Heart rate, same thing. Doing serial drawings allows you to do that same concept. Where are the trends going? Where's the energy going? Is this person in, John Allen identifies 3 areas. Is this in chaos? Are we moving to resolution? Where are we in this whole phase, in this child's life? So serial drawings, the child will come in and they'll draw. Doesn't have to be every session, but they will draw regularly. And again, it could be a directive. You could say, hey, draw me a picture of your family, draw a picture of a house. You could do person, house, tree. Or if you're less directive, you could say, here's a piece of paper, draw whatever you'd like. Over time, as you're viewing how these pictures change and evolve, you're able to see how the therapeutic process is happening within the child. And it's not a one picture tells me the whole story. It's this series of photos gives me an idea over time what's happening.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the ways I've used it is I've used the prompt, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? And what kind of environment would your animal like to live in? And then we kind of use that to go from there. So, yeah.
I'm smiling about that one because I'm always assigned to the bald eagle, but I don't think I would choose that for myself. I think I would choose something different.
That's funny. Yeah. You know what? It's interesting as you were talking about like the leading or following, and I think that's what struck me so much when I did the training probably 9 years ago now, is how similar that kind of philosophy is with child-centered play therapy? Because when I got trained a gazillion years ago, you pretty much only had one option, and that was child-centered play therapy. And so now there's a lot more options. I think that the thing that I found beneficial about child-centered play therapy is you have to really learn how to get out of grown-up mode and give up control and just really focus on being present and being attuned. And I hear that a lot from what you're saying with the Jungian model, which is that use of self, therapeutic use of self. It's the relationship, and everything kind of flows out of that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we co-create interventions in the Jungian space, right? While we're playing with the child, the play is happening, it's evolving. We may not know where it's going, but because we're so in tune with the relationship and because we are self-attuned, we can realize that, okay, I think this is the energy that the child's bringing to this. This is where they're trying to get this to go. And we can, we offer things sometimes. If the child's like, if they seem like they're stuck, or if it seems like I'm stuck and I'm not sure exactly where I need to go, I'll say, oh, like, what do I do? Do I do this thing? And the child will be like, no, do that thing. Or they're like, yes, do that. And so I follow the lead, but it gets kind of co-created. And those are the most powerful interventions I found, not the ones that like, oh, okay, I read this in that book, I'm going to go do that like on Thursday with that child at 3:00. It's more, okay, I'm in this, I'm in the actual moment, I'm in the relationship. Something about the unconscious connectedness is telling me this is where this might need to go. And we try it out, and sometimes it works, like I said, and when it does, it's very powerful. And sometimes I'm like, oh, nope, I missed that one. Okay, I'll try it again.
I know, and I find that too. Like sometimes you're like, "Is this an easy fix?" Oops, I got that wrong. You know, they're like, okay.
Easy fix for you. But yeah, the child has their own idea, after I finished with JP, I still had to do. There was a moratorium on the applications. That's when I got my RPT. Wow. And so I had to continue doing supervision, and he suggested that I go to someone who does child-centered. So I did child-centered afterwards, which was a very hard switch. I feel like the switch from child-centered to Jungian Analytical Play Therapy might be an easier switch, but I don't know. I've only done it one way.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The relationship is such a key focus for both. That part was so easy. I could be in the relationship with the child. I could surrender the control of the session, knowing that I'm going to be able to set therapeutic and safe boundaries for both of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know you guys have a training coming up this month, actually. Do you want to, for people who are interested in learning more about Jungian analytic theory, do you want to tell them a little bit about the training and like when it is, how long it is there a virtual option? Is there an in-person option? How do they register?
I'm happy to do that. Yeah. So the training is Back to the Future, the past, present, and future of Jungian Analytical Play Therapy. Now that's a mouthful. So we'll be looking at Jungian Analytical Play Therapy through the lens of Back to the Future. So we're going to start in the past, and we're going to work all the way up to where we are today and look into what the future may hold for Jungian Analytical Play Therapy and play therapy in general. We are going to talk about the theory. We're gonna look really deeply into the theory, the anatomy of the psyche, all of those important things, all of those aspects that you have to know if you're going to do this, because theory drives the intervention, not the other way around, right? So JP would say all of the time, like without the theory, the interventions are dangerous. And by the way, I didn't say this yet, but Carl Jung called this a most dangerous method. So we really do need to know the model, the theory really well. And so we're going to take 6 hours, which is still just introduction. It's a great way to begin, but this is something that you continue to work on and master over the course of your whole career. So 6 hours in Lehigh on June 26th. Great way to get some history CEs if you need them. And of course, seminal theory, because that's 6 hours of a seminal theory. And also, we're going to be doing some of our own inner work because, like I mentioned, this is about self-attunement. You can't go into the play therapy room. You can't enter Temenos and be safe if you don't know who you are and what's going on with yourself. So we're going to do a little bit of that. Of course, encourage people to do their own work individually as well. But we're going to look at that. And yeah, if you're interested, it's utahplaytherapy.org. You can get your tickets and registration there and sign up. I think we have 9 tickets left.
Oh, okay. And is it just in person?
Yes, it is just in person.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you said something too, I think is really, really important. We were kind of talking about this before because you and I both supervise people pursuing their registered play therapy credential, but also like helping people learn how to take theory and apply it. That's what supervision is. How do you take a theory and how do you apply it in practical application? And I think it's really important to learn a theory. And one of the ways that you figure out what theory you resonate with is going to different trainings to get information and learning about the theory to see if it's something that resonates with you. And then you have the opportunity from there to learn how to apply it. And that's the key. Like the training is key, but the consultation is key as well. A lot of what you were talking about before, which is that self work and how do you tell if it's me or if it's the client or what do I do in this situation? My client did this, but you're always looking through the lens of the theory. So you're looking through the lens. How would Jungian Analytic Play Therapy, how would they define what is at the root of the problem and what are the patterns sustaining it? So you're looking at it through that theoretical lens, and then you're going to learn how to apply. What does that look like in the first phase? What does that look like in the second phase? How do you know when they're ready to terminate successfully? Well, you're only going to know if you figure out what stage of change they're in and where they are in the healing process, which means you have to go back to your theory model to figure out what your theory would say is evidence of their readiness for discharge. Yeah. So I think that's awesome. I've been excited to see that Utah Association for Play Therapy, you guys have been doing some seminal and historic. We kind of talked about that before we hit the live. So I think it's awesome. You guys have a lot of good trainings going on there.
Yeah, I'm excited for the lineup they have this year, and we haven't told everybody or haven't told anybody about what's going on for next year, but it's in the works. I'm excited for that. I think we're going to bring in some great trainings that people are going to enjoy. And also just playing off of what you said, there's a Carl Jung quote specific about that, actually. So he said, know all the theories, master all the techniques. But when it comes to when it comes to touching another soul, just be a human soul.
That's awesome. Yeah. Kind of speaks to that healing power of presence too. Yeah, and knowing how you're going to
master it. And then we can be a healing presence.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you. So for those of you who are interested, we are going to put in the comments, we'll put a link to the training so you can register. Also, if you want to get in touch with Jared, you can always, we put some of the links in the description so you can check out his website. You can connect with him on Facebook and Instagram. If you're interested in learning about what the Utah Association for Play Therapy is up to, then pop over to their website. So, and that is it for today. So we will see you guys. Oh, well, I'll see you guys next week. And Jared will hopefully see you at the training.
Yes.
All right.
Excited for that.
Now. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.